it's mostly what geopolitics
is all about,
is
because energy. Yeah. So what am I referring to here? I am referring to the thinking of how it was prior to the Russian military operations in Ukraine,
Yeah.
and how the flow of energy, especially for Europe.
Yeah.
Europe used to get unlimited access of energy.
Yeah.
Germany now is finding the hard way. I've even got a word that there's a possibility now in Hungary, Budapest, that they might even get out of the EU altogether.
That's interesting.
It's because Hungary gets a lot of energy from
from
Russia at a discounted price. So the whole idea of this geopolitics of energy is the idea of how now country is going to have to think in terms of with the changes in the global order. And I did find one sort of, when you think about in terms of the changes, we all hear about the global climate change and clean energy, and
now countries are starting. So there's two things about that. First of all, natural gas being classified as a green energy is very odd to me, because it used to not be a green energy. So I guess that only, that seems very odd to me, that all of a sudden we would reclassify the stuff that's useful for us into the green category. And the second is a lot of countries are now starting to abandon that. And I think that that's very interesting. So we're watching people abandon that. Okay, but that's an aside.
You're right. Yeah, it's the idea of how you're going to be thinking about the distribution of geopolitical power when it comes down to energy. Absolutely. What am I talking about here in all this in a simple language? Now, a word from our sponsor, Noble Gold. The US dollar has lost 85% of its value since the 1970s, when the dollar decoupled from gold. And the government seems bent on continuing the tradition. From now until after the next elections, the government can print as much money as it wants. The last time the government did that, inflation went up 9%. This means one thing: the security of your future and your family's future is all in your hands. Make sure you freeze the value of the wealth you are holding. Invest in gold with Noble Gold Investments. Gold is the one asset that has proven to withstand recession, inflation, and just about all economic threats. Noble Gold Investments is here to help you if you want to invest in gold. You will also get a 24-karat, 1/4 ounce gold standard coin for free. Go to geopoliticsgold.com. That's geopoliticsgold.com. The only gold company I trust. There are always risks in investments, and there are no guarantees. Now back to our show. And to tie it to, for example, the BRICS currency.
Yeah.
And because where's the main energy coming from? So you get key countries around the world.
Absolutely.
We do have energy here in the US, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But as a matter of fact, we produce a lot.
Yes.
Except that we are not using it.
Yeah.
By design.
By design. It's one of the things that Biden, when he first came in office, he shut down the Keystone Pipeline.
Yeah.
And then under the guise of it being green, which really bothers me, because it's not like we started consuming less oil. We just bought it from someone else.
Yeah. What tells you right there the role of the lobbyists into all this?
That's not green.
So, no, it's not. It's a lie, basically. That's what anything coming out of the administration is like. Or the globalists, or all of them. I mean, I've seen the images of what's his name? Evil Bill coming out of the plane. You look at, what's his name? The actor Leo DiCaprio. Flying in a helicopter to go for dinner and talking about green. It's hypocrisy at the highest order. We're not going to worry about this one here. For now, we could focusing on this, the distribution of this geopolitical power. What am I referring to here? I'm referring to the idea of how, if you are to think about the expansion of BRICS, adding countries, because you're already hearing people saying, why don't you exchange India for Iran? Yeah. What does Iran's going to bring to the table?
India for we got a couple of countries here that they're looking at.
What does, for example, bring in Indonesia into the area? What does, for example, bring in Saudi Arabia to BRICS?
Not an I, but
but it's still What do they have in common?
Yeah.
Energy
Oil,
production.
yeah.
Algeria, oil producing.
Mhm.
So what I'm talking about, this geopolitical distribution here, or the distribution of geopolitical power when it comes down to energy.
Mhm.
You think about it in terms of the new currency and tie it to Russia's decision to move with the digital, but at the same time with the BRICS currency. So then what do you have inside BRICS? You get a large market of India.
Oh,
And China. This is with the assumption that India stays in.
Right.
But if it's not,
well, one of the things that India did is when the US was like sanctions on Russian oil, they said nope.
Yeah, they did.
So I think that's actually a really big thing that you're exactly speaking to, is that India was like, guys, we're not gonna do that.
Then how about the currency? How come they all of a sudden they are saying no to the BRICS currency when they could benefit from it?
No, I think that's a very interesting.
I found it very.
India's playing both sides.
I find it very odd that those decisions were made right after Modi's trip to Washington. Wow. Well, we gotta say it,
right?
Yeah, we gotta. That's what I always say. So the idea of, you think about it in terms of the BRICS currency moving forward into that direction, Russia will be able to coordinate with, let's say, Africa. What does Africa have?
Resources.
What does it?
Mineral resources, and a lot of them.
And oil. You look at Angola. You look at Equatorial Guinea. Those are oil producers. You look at Libya. You look at Algeria. You look at Sudan. Those are major oil producers. So, and this is where I see this the geopolitics of oil is gonna now diver. This is all without even talking about the Arctic, which I argued in my book. So I argued about this one back then, of the idea of how access to $35 trillion. I think there is a quote that I sent you here.
Oh, yes.
Somewhere. It's because
all right, let me find it. You keep going.
So it was the idea of the access to this untapped natural resources. Okay. And even to me back then became evident, accessing to this massive energy, it's going to change the dynamics, not only for Russia, because China is also involved in financial projects in the Arctic.
Absolutely.
And this is what I'm talking about, that the geopolitics of oil is going to change the trajectory. And what makes it even worse for the US is that most of those transactions will be conducted in other currency than the dollar.
Well, and okay, so first of all, I have this quote. So let me actually read this quote. So guys, David has a book. I don't know if you have seen it or not. Or we don't talk about, I think, a lot of our coolest accomplishments, but this is one of them.
Yes.
And so this is a quote from David's book, The Dynamic of Russia's Geopolitics, Remaking the Global Order. Russia has long sought economic and military dominance in its northern shores, a region that holds as much as $35 trillion worth of untapped oil and natural gas. Even China, a nation with no territorial claim to the Arctic, has begun funding Arctic development projects. It underscores the region's growing global importance and influence. And with climatic change impacting the area and the world over, we should expect fierce competition in the near future. So I want to say something about that, because it's something I've long thought about as a potential tie, because it's interesting to see the patterns emerge over time. So speaking directly to this, David, I have often wondered if that is actually one of China's strategic interests with being allied so heavily with Russia, is actually the Arctic. Because right now there is a really big fight for Greenland. We've sort of touched on this a little bit, right? But that's, basically you're looking at polar ice caps melting, and so all of a sudden you have new trade routes, which is what you're speaking to.
Yes.
And the people who really owned those trade routes, they have an economic leg up that the others don't. So let's say Russia, China are the countries that get real dominance over those trade routes. That leaves the US in the cold. Let's say the US gets dominance over those trade routes. That leaves Russia, China out in the cold.
Yeah.
And so this is a very big, so yes, it's oil, but it's also trade routes.
Yeah, I detailed that in the book. If you
Yep.
guys want to read the book, you'll get the answer.
I'm going to show it again
Detailed.
because I think it's very,
It's a
very cool.
detailed answer there that I provided. But the short answer is yes. China got involved into that because of energy, and the reason being has to do with the pipeline.
Yeah.
There's a pipeline that's going to deliver gas to China. China's consumption. I did a private presentation for some high-ranking military individuals and all that. One of them was a one-star NATO general attended.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't even know it myself till I finished the presentation, and he came over and asked me a question, and I saw the rank and I heard the accent.
Yeah.
It was a British.
Yeah.
And I said, "What a British general doing here?"
Yeah.
Oh, he said, "I just came to listen." Ah.
Well, there's a reason.
I was like, oh, okay. And it was about the Arctic.
Right.
Literally, that was the conversation about the Arctic. Of course, because those audiences are private.
Right.
No recording, no, it's for private audience. But the idea for China is that the idea of the pipeline, which will deliver gas to China, but also to Europe.
Yeah.
Well, guess what now? With what's going on in Europe, that gas pipeline is going to just be redirected to China.
Yeah.
You might have Turkey get some of it. You might get certain Eastern European countries, because Russia now, what is going to Russia do? This dust on the Ukraine is going to settle one way or another.
Yeah, it absolutely
and
will.
You know what Russia is going to do? It's going to go back and start putting lines across the name of countries that that's how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And what I mean by this, when it comes down to energy deliveries of gas and oil and so forth. And this is where that pipeline comes in, because also the consumption of China, it's not projected to be reduced anytime soon. It's only going to go up.
It's only going to go up.
So that is the reason why.
Yeah.
So to tie this to the idea of the new currency, just think about it. If that massive amount of energy is being transacted with certain countries using the Chinese yuan, in that case, renminbi, or Russia could request the digital ruble. You can just see where this is going.
Yeah.
So that's what prompted me to mention the term distribution of the geopolitical power.
Yeah.
That's what I meant by all that. So.
Well, and I think that that's very interesting to focus on, because how much of our conflict around the world is about oil? How much of it has always been
it was always about
oil.
energy. Yeah, we went to Iraq because of energy.
Yep.
We took out Gaddafi because of energy, and now we are going to Africa because we want to limit certain movements as far as. Guys, is there any no question?
Oh wait,
one question.
we have a new member.